Okay. Hey guys, I am in Ohio in my hotel room and it's cold and snowing and I couldn't get a car. But anyway, I'm here today. I'm going to try and answer a question. I'm trying to stay on topic. I already started going off topic here. This question comes from Troxel Services. Um, it's a YouTube channel. And so the question is, my profit margin last year was 21%. I would like to maintain a 20% or more profit margin for 2025, but I want to be able to grow as well. And growth typically can reduce profit margin. So yeah, that's all true. What's up, Walter? Can't really see things yet. Let me get on my computer here. So a couple of things. Again, to try and stay on topic. So here's a couple of things I want to start off by saying is a goal for 20% profit is amazing. That's an awesome goal. I think everybody should have that goal. Like that's my goal too. But a goal is not a goal unless you're actively trying to achieve it. Okay, because I want to start off by saying that because, and again, this is just me answering the question. I'm not specifically talking to Troxel. I don't know anything about your services or anything. I did watch a video, your latest video where you're talking with your guys, kind of how the days, their day-to-day operations are and stuff. Pretty cool. But no, I'm just kind of talking. So don't take anything personal. I don't know anything about your business at all. I don't know nothing other than you did over 20% profit margin last year, and you want to try and maintain 20% profit margin going forward. So, but what I want to say is a goal. That's a great goal, but it's an awesome goal. We should all have that goal. But it's not a goal unless you're actively trying to go for it. So what I mean is there are some years where I start off that being my goal, and then I get kind of sidetracked because either something heavy is weighing on me and it's kind of like I start taking a different turn. I got to take a headphone off and hopefully that's better for me. So like I said, priorities come up where you start to focus on other things and you kind of forget about your goal of profit margin, because let me tell you, saving 20% profit margin or hitting that goal and actually saving it, it's really hard to do. So it requires like being really smart with spending money. Okay, so I want to kind of go over some of those things. One, so before I go into like kind of steps, I just want to say a couple of things. It always, obviously it starts with pricing, but let's just say your pricing is good. You gotta have good pricing. You gotta know how much you're supposed to charge. I mean, that's like the base. You have to know how to do that. So what that is you figure out what all your costs are, including labor, insurance, light bill, everything, manager meetings, whatever you pay throughout the year. And you got to figure out what you're going to need to make every hour per truck to pay for all those things. So that's a whole nother thing. And that could take a long time to figure out. Sorry, my screen froze here and I don't know where I'm at. So let me just start off by a couple of things. First, you got to think of it as company first. So I know that a lot of us, we think the employees are the most important thing, which they are, but if you don't have a solid company, you can't pay or reward those great workers first. So you kind of have the mentality that if you want to save 20 or more profit margin, you got to think like your company is first. Without that, you can't pay your guys and they won't stay. So that's really important. You won't hit your profit margins if you actually think your company's first, right? So if you think like, oh, well, I've got to do right by my employees first, meaning forget about the company, let's just make sure everybody's taken care of, then your company could get hurt, and after a year or two, you might be out of business because you can't afford it. And then, so all that goodwill you had towards your employees, it goes to waste because you lose the business, right? So you got to think the company's first. You can't, for example, one winter in 2022, the winter of that year, I decided that I'm going to pay all my guys 30 hours, all the winter guys. And there was a lot of them. I think there was only a couple of guys that didn't want to work in the wintertime, so they didn't work. So for the most part, I had full payroll for November, December, January, February, March, and April. Now, I say March and April as well because it didn't stop snowing. And it wasn't like snow where I could actually plow and make money. It was just cold, and the ice that was on properties just never left. So because I had made a commitment to make the employees first, I was digging myself in this giant hole that the company almost couldn't get out of. And it took about 2 seasons for it to get completely out. And so that's why I say ever since that happened, I've had other things that happened over the years, and I've always been like, well, company should come first. But then when this happened, it really drilled home with me. And I say this because the next year we did hit 20%, over 20% profit margin, which was the season of 2024. So you got to think company first. And so what we did was, I won't go into too much detail, but basically we cut the fat, and I'm going to go over all these things. So I'm going to tell you what we did. Okay. So another thing, and like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, your pricing needs to be good, right? So you've got to be able to pay for all those things, pay for yourself, pay for your employees, and then that's the profit. So don't count what you make as owner distribution as company profit. That's not company profit. That's the company paying you. So that's just like pretty much almost like payroll, but it's accounted for as owner distribution, and it's not counted as profit. The banks don't look at that as profit. And that's another thing. I've learned a lot of these kind of reasons what counts as profit and what doesn't because of banks. Working with them closely for things that I need, they actually came in looking at my numbers at least 2 solid times now, and I've learned a lot from that. So get your pricing right. And there are things that come up throughout your operation where you don't have any control over, okay? For example, a truck breaks down, you need a new transmission, okay? That's gonna happen, and you gotta have to be smart and figure out how to make it fixed the most affordable way, right? The smartest way. I'm not talking about fixed overhead, though. Those bills that you have that they don't change, the price basically stays the same every month, all year. You have control over that, okay? So those are some of the things where I would say start there after your pricing. You need to get your fixed overhead as low as possible and keep them low as you scale up, right? Because remember, those prices don't change for the most part. So negotiate those prices every year. Call like if you could call each one of those overhead bills. And obviously you're going to call the utility. You're not going to call the utility company and say, hey, how can I make my bill lower every month? Or maybe you can, but you can't really negotiate some of those city bills that you get. But maybe there's a call service after hours that you pay, and maybe you can negotiate a better deal for that. Maybe you can negotiate a better deal on your I was going to say health insurance, but I don't think you can do that. But you can look into that year after year. That's something that I have to pay, and that's one of the big ones for me is my health care that I pay. But another bill that I typically lower, and I reduced my insurance, my car insurance, by $10,000 last year. So we went with a new provider, and my insurance agent was really happy that she found it and was able to do that for me. I was super happy because I was bugging her all winter last year. You know, when I remember I came off a hard year in 22, 23. And so one of the things was I need to lower my overhead costs. That is something you can control. So I have some numbers here. So my fixed overhead for the last 12 months, for the last 12 months of all of 24 combined was 17%. I think that's high. Okay. But let me tell you, from January to March, which are like what I would call like my winter months, it was 26%. Now my summer months, you know, when we're rocking and we're just killing it with work, it was down to 8%. And then November and December, it went up to 35%. So I've got some work there to do myself. But those are numbers that you can control, sort of, as far as trying to lower things or get them off, right? I have some things that I've taken off that I didn't need. There was a call center that I was paying for, and I felt like, you know what, I feel confident that my office person can answer all those calls, and even we started using voicemail, which we've never used before. That saved us a lot, because remember, trying to write all of those overhead costs on a spreadsheet that you look at regularly. I'm talking look at it every day. I look at it every day, and I put what date they're due, so that when I, if like let's say today's the 7th, I would look at my sheet, at my list, which I'm looking at it right now. I'm actually on the wrong month, but let me check the right month. I can know, so everything up to this point, there's one bill that's not paid, and it gets taken out automatically from my bank account, so I don't have to worry about it. And it didn't get taken out yet, and I thought it was supposed to be taken out on the 4th. So it didn't, and it's $1,000. So that one I probably want to look into, because I don't want any problems with that vendor. And now it's the 7th, and I've got my internet bill that's due, and I saw an email this morning that it was taken out. So I keep track of it, so that if, like, let's say it's the 20th and a bill didn't get paid, I'll pay it. Like, I'll look into it. I try and stay up to date with all these things. But looking at these every day, you start to realize, do I really need that? So I feel like at this point, I've got my whole list of everything, and I feel like I really need these things. Now, the only thing I can really do at this point is negotiate lower prices, okay? So fixed overhead is something you can control. You'll be surprised if, because at one point, I just want to have the best business, right? So anything that I thought was going to help me achieve a better business, a better process, I got it. I didn't really think about trying to lower my overhead costs. You know what I mean? But when you really make it a focus to make as much profit margin as you can, this is, I would say, one of your first steps. Lowering these costs, getting rid of these things, getting it down as low as possible. Like I said, when I'm rocking on a good month, when we're doing all the services, all the trucks are busy every day, my overhead is down to like 6, 7, or 8%. And I still have a lot of things that are expensive. I've got my health insurance is $6,600 now. All right. I get some of that back in the form of payroll credits, but it's still something I have to pay. My car insurance is right now, it's like $4,400. So between just those two bills, it's extremely high. Everything else is pretty common. Everything else is normal. My software bill every month, my utility bill, just normal stuff after that. And if I didn't have those two big things, my profit margin would go up by a lot. So I just gotta try and cut more stuff, and there's still things here I can cut, but I have to make some changes with my shop. I have to move things around so I don't have to pay for a storage unit. Right now I'm paying I'm paying 3, 4, 5, almost $600 in storage units. Well, 2 of those are in my own shop with the containers, and then I rent 2 storage units so I can put some office stuff, chairs, and things like that away. I don't really need that. I could put those in my shop if I really want to, but this is just a convenience thing. But I should get rid of those. And we're opening up a new shop at the south end of my service area, and because of that, I think we are getting rid of some of these storage units, and I've already talked to the managers about it. And that's going to save me $600. Now, the rent in the new place is going to go up, but that's a strategic thing that I thought we really need. And I'll go into that in another video, but your fixed overhead, that is something you can control, since you have the power to do that. I'm going to read some of these notes just to make sure that the sound is still good and everything. Okay, I'm not seeing anything with sound, but I do see Troxel Services here. Thanks for talking about this. I should add, I don't take a salary, so my personal income has to also come out of the 20% margin. I am 45 with a family of 7. The guys in the video you saw are some of my employees. Seth was interviewing and is one of my leads. Thanks again for taking the time or talking about this. Yeah, awesome. Nice. And thanks for watching, dude. Appreciate it. And I appreciate the question. Again, I'm going to keep going here. We've got some more comments, but I want to just kind of try and keep this. Maybe at the end, I'll answer some of those questions. Fixed overhead. All right. Have I said enough about that? I mean, you can control that. It's something that you can see every day. Software. I pay combined total, and I can even tell you the number here. For January, I pay Service Autopilot $969, and I pay Service Titan $1,964. Woo, that's a big number. So just with those 2, I'm paying $3,000. Now, Service Titan, I've already emailed them, and I'm shaving off, I want to say $600, but it could be as high as $800. And that's that. I'm again fixed overhead. I'm lowering that cost. I already know I'm doing that. I've already sent the cancellation email for a feature that is attached to my Service Titan account. So my normal Service Titan account should be about $1,000, maybe a little bit less, or maybe a little bit more, but it's going to be lowered because, again, it's something I'm trying to trim. I'm trying to trim this stuff. Service Autopilot, it's $969, and I probably can't get it too much lower, but what I can do is I call them up, try to figure out what I can do, and what they told me was I could sign a contract for 12 months, which I'm not going anywhere. I tried looking at other software, and I don't think anything's as good yet. So I'm not going anywhere for 12 months. I'm definitely not going to, if I were to leave, it's now, right? It would have been in November, and that's when I was looking into really switching to try and save money. So I signed a 12-month contract. So what that does is it gave me a little discount, but it also made it so they can't raise my prices for 12 months. So at least I know that price is not going to go up any higher. I don't have to worry about that one anymore for now. So fixed overhead, something you can control, get it down as low as possible, make it a game for yourself, and get it as low as you can. And when I say fixed overhead, I don't mean fuel. That's something that goes up and down. That's a whole nother category. Vehicle repairs, that's a whole nother category. All right, I'm talking about fixed overhead, those bills that are the same every month. Your cell phone bill, your lease, whatever, your internet bill, anything that's pretty much the same and it's got a due date every month. That's where you can start, and that makes a big difference. Next is labor overhead. Okay? You should not have. Okay, let me start off by saying how I have it. I have 4 managers, right? So technically, as you would think, managers don't really make any money, right? They don't bring in any money in. So let me go over my 4 managers, right? So, there's me, I'm one of the 4. and I'm doing whatever I'm doing, right? I'm making sure the money, everything's getting paid. I'm making sure I'm basically in charge of finances, which is a job, right? Like if I wasn't doing it, I have to pay somebody to do this. Can we afford new equipment? Um, can we pay for this repair? Can we? I have to move money around. I have to pay some debts. I have, you know what I mean? It's just constantly trying to figure things out. I don't necessarily handle the pricing, but I have somebody in my office that we work closely together and get that figured out. So somebody has to do my jobs. Technically, I don't bring in any money, but it's a job that I have to do. So I'm one that doesn't really bring in any money. My general manager is the estimator. She goes out and estimates jobs and brings in, she doesn't technically bring in money, like she doesn't charge, but in fact, she kind of does, but with the estimates, she brings in the job and keeps the guys busy. So that's, and she does make money basically bringing in estimates. So she is bringing in money. My ops manager, Jose, he's going around making sure that all the workers have everything they need. So without him, jobs are going to be paused, not getting done. Labor's going to go way up because guys aren't going to know what to do. They're going to be sitting around waiting for somebody that's busy like me or Rachel or even the office person to get back to them. Whereas Jose, that's his job to make sure that they're running efficiently. He sends people home when they're done. He moves jobs around to keep people busy and keep the efficiency up. So if he has a worker that's next to another worker that needs help, he'll send him to get those jobs done. If a job is across town, he'll figure out how to make it efficient or move it to the next day. He calls customers like, hey, you've got a tech there now who he's not understanding what part of the yard you want this extra work done, so he needs some help. So he's not bringing in any money, but he's really, without him, we would be losing a lot of money labor wise and efficiency, and maybe we wouldn't even have a steady workforce because having him there, he holds everybody together. When they have issues, he talks to them, he tries to work it out, their personal stuff, he'll bring it up to us. And anyway, so he's kind of important like that. But also, we've talked about him getting his pesticide license. And so the plan we have for him, because I'm telling you, I preach this stuff. Everything I'm telling you here is because I also want to do it or do it. He doesn't bring in money, but I see an opportunity where he could bring in money. So what I've talked to him about was he needs to get his pesticide license, and then we're gonna start doing commercial pest control. And he only commercial. This is because I need him to make money. So I need him to go into these like businesses and restaurants, do the commercial pest control and get out. So I'm hoping if this plan all comes together, fruition one day, he'll be doing those jobs early in the morning, between 6 and 9 a.m., getting them done, or maybe even earlier, right? 6 to 7, and then meeting everybody at work, making sure they go off on their own. But in the meantime, he'll be bringing in money. So that's my plan for him, because I truly believe everybody should be bringing in money if they're working, even if it's not a lot. So the idea I have is, so like this new year, we're going to have a mowing kind of quality control person. He needs to bring in money. He's not just going to go around looking at properties all day. No, he has to at least bring in half of what my top producer does in that division, right? That's minimum. And I'm only saying this because, like, if I had a garden supervisor, we'll say supervisor, who's going around checking all the jobs and making sure the training is good, that person would need to have his own route and at least bringing in half of what the top producer does. And then he would qualify for, garden supervisor or something like that. So any division where you have a supervisor, sprinklers, right? So my sprinkler supervisor who makes sure that the techs do the good job, and when there's an issue, he goes and fixes it. He has to be bringing in at least half of my top producer in order to keep that position. So I'm just letting you know that everybody that is a manager should be bringing in money. And if they're not, you should try and figure out a way to do it. So with Jose, we've got this plan. He's going to get his pesticide license, and then we're going to try and get commercial pest control customers. Just commercial. I don't want to deal with the residential, with commercial going inside the properties and things like that. This is just a way to keep my profit margins high. So it's a strategy, right? So labor overhead. And then there's my office manager who takes calls all day, right? She's calling customers back. She's upselling leads. She's trying to close every account. She's also the dispatcher, which will go into one of the other steps. Is when you've got a dispatcher, you should be reading the notes, making sure that customers are happy, because all that retention keeps customers coming back, and that keeps your profit margins where they need to be. So monitoring the dispatch board is what she does. She technically doesn't bring in any money. She closes, and she also gets past due accounts caught up. We charge cards every day. So on a given day, we'll charge, like during a busy season, we'll charge between 75 and 150 cards in that day. And if somebody so typically there's usually between, I'll say 1 and 5 every day that don't go through. And some of those could be as simple as a $50 mow. Some could be as high as like a big landscape project that's, $15,000. Typically those really big ones, Rachel, the estimator, she works out with the customer, paying by check and all this kind of stuff, but I'm just giving you an idea. So there's usually about 5 cards a day that don't go through, and my office manager calls those customers up and typically gets the money. So if you look at it that way, she does bring in money. It's just money that should have already been paid for work that we did, but it's now in the account, and it's not just sitting there in accounts receivable, just waiting, So, but I'm okay if Rachel, she brings in money with her estimates. Jose is gonna make money. He doesn't for now, but I've talked about what he does, and it's super important. Even if he doesn't ever, if we don't ever follow up with this plan, which we're gonna do, I've already went over it with him. It's still worth it because he's bringing in efficiency. He's keeping the workforce stable and together. So that's really important. And then there's the office manager who, again, if she doesn't bring in any money, it's not the end of the world. And with her, I'm actually not looking for any way to make money, right? Because she's dealing with so many customers every day, scheduling and dispatching and all that kind of stuff. So she's good. And she's upselling though, right? So we have talked about that with her. We have a little game plan for her, which she's been following, and she just calls up leads and tries to close them. And then me or Rachel try and follow up if there's something that we could say to get the sale. So that's my management staff. There's nobody else in my company that doesn't bring in any money. I have had managers, in the landscaping, Fernando, my main guy, when he was leaving the last year, I was just happy that he was still here. He was kind of doing what Jose does now, but he was doing it for just the garden division with the maintenance and the landscaping. He was keeping everybody efficient and all this stuff, and he wasn't really bringing in money. So we started having him do some estimates, but he wasn't, it wasn't the same because he was really busy with the guys also. So we were losing money. We were losing money that year. And we had a sprinkler tech that was doing the same thing Fernando was doing, but just for the sprinkler division. We were losing money. I mean, so much money. It looks good for your business when you walk in and you see these people that are the best managing your team and for those divisions. You feel good about yourself. But if you really look at the numbers, it's hurting your company big time financially. But if you can keep them busy with a list, so the following year, we had our sprinkler manager do a normal route, but also on top of that, to get an extra bonus, we would pay to do these other things. worked out great, and the company's looking good on paper. Numbers are great. We're bringing in money. Profit margins are maintaining. So that's kind of what I wanted to go over with labor overhead, right? Labor overhead. These are people that you're gonna pay no matter what. So right now, I'm paying those 4 managers, and it's not the busy time of the year, but that's something that I felt I controlled as best I could for now until Jose starts bringing in money. It is the way it's going to be for now, but I feel really good. If you look at our company's office 2 years ago, we probably had 8 type of people like this where they weren't bringing in any money, and that's crazy. But at the time, I was so focused on having the best company, not necessarily the most efficient money-making company. You know what I mean? So, but I'm really happy the way things are now. It's actually run smoother now that we're more efficient, and the guys, my managers, are making more money. It's more efficient and smoother and better than it was when we had 8 managers. So think about that too. But labor overhead is something you can control. It takes some strategy, and it takes trying to fill in those needs that you really need with the right people. And that could take some time for those people that you know are going to be great to do it perfectly the way you want. It might take some time, but that's worth it. I feel at this point, my managers are freaking sharp, man. They're sharp. Last year, I probably could have said something about one of my managers, and I probably did say it to a few people. But this year, I feel like they've sharpened, and it's like, wow, they're killing it. Tracking man-hour rates for your field workers. That is another thing you got to do if you want to maintain healthy profit margins. You have to let go of the people that aren't hitting their numbers. You have to, Again, this is company first. When they hit their numbers, they should be making more money. They should be rewarded for hitting their numbers. This isn't something like they're not just a number. These people are there to help the company grow, and you want to reward them for doing that. But you got to track the numbers. If you're tracking your numbers, so for example, when I really said to the team, we're going to track our numbers, or we got to let people go if they're not hitting their numbers. When we really decided that that's the way we were going to do it, I have an example of a worker who was a great worker, worked for me for on and off for a long time. I mean, back when I was in my other shop, just growing before he was with me before we had the blue trucks. Great guy. Everybody loves him. I love him too. And in fact, I have talked to him recently. Not about work, but just about other stuff. And it was a really tough decision, but company first, man. So I told him, hey man, you're not hitting your numbers. Could be a fluke, whatever, but just want you to know that this is what we noticed. We noticed that you're going too far for your breaks in between jobs. So you need to either go faster or find breaks towards your next job, like on your way to your next job. Don't go out of the way. It kept happening. And so we're like, okay, well, whoa, this actually is something, this is a problem. Like he's not helping us. He's actually hurting the company. And I think now at this point, after talking to him a few times, he's doing it on purpose. You know what I mean? Like he's basically telling us he doesn't care. And this is somebody that we all loved. So we told him, hey man, this is it. This week, you need to do a lot better, or I got to let you go. I'm sorry, but we've shown you exactly what you're doing wrong and how to fix it. And it's a simple thing. You're just not doing it. And again, he wasn't doing it. And he had every excuse that you could think of, but yet we have other crews that were nailing it, right? Killing it. So we just let him go, man. And then I want to tell you something. So when we let him go, we moved somebody else that was on our landscaping crew to his truck, and he was killing it. He was killing it. Started hitting numbers, and we have a spreadsheet where once you go over your man hour rate, it turns red. You have to enter it in. I wish it would do it automatically. Um, it's really nice to see everything in the green, you know. And then in that point, you just don't have to worry about that. You're like, oh man, they're doing great. So, and then I would say probably 3 months later, maybe 4 months later, we needed another crew, another truck, another garden maintenance guy. So I said to the, so I actually called, I feel horrible, but I called that guy back and saying, because my managers were, you know, Rachel and Jose were like, dude, we really need another garden maintenance guy. We need one badly. Like the guys, they're having too many jobs on. We need another guy to do another route. So I was trying to find somebody. I couldn't find anybody. So I call this guy back, the one that we let go 3 or 4 months earlier. And I'm like, hey man, you know, hopefully there's no bad feelings, but would you come back if we needed you? And he said, yes. So I told the team, hey, you know what? I could get this guy back. And they're like, you can't do that. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, don't we need one? Yeah, but he's not hitting his numbers. So we don't, unfortunately, he can't work here. They were telling me this. Okay. And I'm like, man, you're right. You're right. Because we had a goal of hitting, not just hitting 20% profit margin, which ended up was what happened. It was higher than 20%, but we needed a certain amount of money so we could buy the shop. That was our goal. And if we did that, we'd be over 20%, but that was our mission, right? And they all knew this too. Like they knew that if we didn't buy the shop, we could potentially be out in the street. So they were like, no, man, we're not hitting, he doesn't hit his numbers, you can't bring him back. I go, you rather us wait to find somebody than just hire somebody we know can do it? Yes. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. And now looking back, I'm so proud of that. Can you imagine if we would have hired him back? Like, I love the guy. I hate that this is my example, but can you imagine, like, if I did that, I wouldn't be literally following the goal, which I had my team help me do, thankfully. All right, so next I'm going to go. So tracking man hour rates it's so important, guys. And again, this is for the field labor guys, but if you've got your managers that are supervising, they should also be bringing in money. Now, if they're not hitting their man hour rate, you should figure out. I don't know what happened. Hopefully, nothing bad. Where was I? Can't even remember where I was. So let me go over my next little topic here. So what I was going to say is tracking. If your manager is not hitting the man hour rate that you need, that you want your field workers to hit, if you've got a manager that's also in the field, all right, make it realistic. You know, for example, I just told you in this video that person should be doing at least half of your highest producer, right? So if your highest producer is doing $100 per man hour, which is totally realistic, your supervisor, depending on how you have it set up, or how many hours they're supposed to work and that kind of thing, $50 per man hour. Yes, that's not hitting your target number for all your field guys, but you've got this person doing an additional job. So you can't really hold them at the same standard of hitting their man hour rates. You can, you know, like if I talked to John and I said, hey, John, who's my brother, by the way, um, you know, I still need you to hit your 70%, $70 per man hour. Like that's the mowing rate. I think it's $75 per man hour. I still need you to hit that, and then I'm gonna have you go look at the other jobs and make sure the quality is good after that, and we'll build a route for you. You'll be checking 5 houses a day after your list. If he said yes, okay, you have an agreement, you have something that you can do. And I don't have that kind of agreement with him, but because I don't really know, like this is my first year having a mowing supervisor, so I'm not really sure how to go about it. So what I'm thinking is going into what my highest revenue producer is for that division. I'm pretty sure it's $100.
per man hour. We've had guys that were blowing that over by like doing $120 per man hour, but I know their quality wasn't great. So I'm thinking of like somebody with great quality going really fast, $100 per man hour. So I would need John to hit at least $50 per man hour if he's going to be the supervisor and actually do those other jobs. Because what he's going to be doing is retaining customers by fixing. He'll have his own truck with all the mowing equipment because he does his own route. He'll be able to go to other properties and fix them up if they're not up to standard. And that's what we're going to have him do. So, but I and I still need to track his man hour rate. So if I'm not just going to say just go for it. And then when Rachel's looking at the numbers and she says, "Hey, John's at $30 per man hour," it's like, oh, there's a problem. You know what I mean? He's not hitting his $50. So you still need a goal for every person in the field. Track those man hour rates, and that alone will help you maintain healthy profit margins. That's basically where your money's coming in from. So it's really one of the really important ones. While we're talking about the man hour rates, it's important to have a dispatcher who's constantly monitoring the board. Now, in my case, I have Amanda who constantly monitors the board, but and what the way she does it, if she were to call the field workers herself directly, that'd be great. But um, she doesn't do that. There's the language barrier. So she'll text or call Jose and he'll do it. But my point is, you need a dispatcher who's always constantly monitoring the dispatch board. So when you see inefficiency or somebody still has 5 jobs and everybody else has 2, we need to know that immediately so that we can get somebody who's in the area close by to finish or help with that list so that jobs get done fast and everybody can go home. And you're not having the person working, 6, 7 hours longer than everybody else, or even not finish. And then you've got to send somebody back far area the next day. So dispatching and routing. So when you're putting jobs in to get done, they should be in a way that it makes sense. You should never be sending somebody out of the way. So that's one of the things we work on still. We're not perfect at it, but sometimes we have trouble telling the customer, hey, well, the next time we're in there is next Tuesday. That might be, it could be Friday instead of saying, or Thursday instead of saying, we'll be there tomorrow, which is what we typically do. We should be saying we're going to book it for Tuesday. And with us and with our industry, it's kind of hard to know when jobs are going to get done and things like that. So it is a difficult thing, but if you're aware of routing, that is something you need to do. You should have somebody constantly monitoring that dispatch board for all things. What jobs, and again, I'm not here talking about quality, I'm talking about 20% profit margin maintenance. So you can't be having your guys drive far. So routing and looking at that dispatch board is like super important. So another thing you can do, and this is like kind of like a strategy thing, is to put 20% away every month, no matter what. No matter what. Meaning, let's say you've got a big account that brings in, let's say, 10% of your monthly revenue. And that's pretty high. I know that that's not normal, but as a strategy, try and get one. Try and find a property that you know will pay out at least 10% uh, of your revenue and try and get it and do whatever it takes to get it. That is something that we try to do, and we're trying to get a 10% revenue job now currently, and we've got some leads, but when we see one of those accounts um, out there, and we try and get a hold of who to talk to, so that makes the decision, so we can at least try and be on the bidding list. That's a big strategy, and you can actually bring your profit margin way up. I know that now that doesn't mean that you're gonna be able to save all this money, but at least it's a strategy that once they pay, you just put that check. Let's just for fun say that Wells Fargo gave you all their accounts. Now, if you can swing your payroll and and most of your bills without that account, when that check comes in, put that directly away. And let's say that's 10%. Well, then that makes your other 10% from the jobs that you have done easier to transfer out. So like when you got a batch of like, I don't know, let's say $1,000, um, put $100. Is that 10%? Whatever 10% is. Yeah, $100. Put it in your profit account. Um, or you got a batch of let's say $20,000. Put $2,000 in your profit account. Mix that with your job that pays out 10%. Um, those are all strategies that, hey, at the end of the day, it works. You know what I mean? Um, and so that's just a tip thing, just something to like go, you know what? My goal, if you really believe that you have a goal and you're really trying to hit it, you've got to try many things. And one of those things is, you know what, we can get this big account, or we already have this big account. Let's say you already have a big account that pays out, however much. I'm just going to say 10%. Um, Try and run your business with payroll and expenses as if that's not coming in. And when they pay, just put that directly away. If you can get there, obviously, I'm not saying that it's like, I know I've talked to some big landscape companies. They don't really like that idea. And it's not, so I'm not saying that's your only idea. I'm just saying that's just one of your things to do. Because what they say is, oh, if you lose that account, what are you going to do? I'm not saying rely on it. Okay. I'm just saying try and get enough work and try and get one of those big ones so that you could try to do this because it helps. And you know what I mean? It helps. Those unexpected expenses, vehicle repairs, maybe you need a new vehicle and you got to pay cash for it for whatever reason. All these things, it's nice to have an account like that that you can just kind of go, you know what? It sucks. I can't put it away. I'm going to actually need this. It makes your life easier. That's all I'm saying. And then marketing. That's something where everybody says it's really important, and it is, obviously. There have been months and months and months and months where I've paid $10,000 consistently on marketing. And so that's another cost that you could save. I actually wrote that. I don't know if I wrote that one down, my cost for marketing, but it wasn't very high. Um, um, Marketing for the whole year was 2.5%. So it wasn't very much. Um, this year is going to be a little different because this is my first year. This is my 2025 will be my first year where I'll have a marketing company kind of in charge of marketing all my services. In the past, I've only paid a marketing company to deal with my sprinkler division because I feel like we have enough work coming in with all the other like spring services and summer services like the yard services, mowing, maintenance, cleanup, landscaping. But I really want to step up this year, and so we've hired a company to do it. It's the same company that I use for sprinklers, so I know them, and I know they're going to do great. Um, and actually, this was a long time coming. We've been in conversation with trying to do my marketing for all my other services for probably 2 years, and I was just kind of stubborn doing it myself. And I feel like, you know what? I think I've taken it as far as I could myself. I'm ready to let another company take it over, and I feel really good about it. But that's a cost where, like in December, we don't need these big giant expenses with that. We can strategize and go, let's take some of the payments, let's take some of these. Do we need to do this or that or this or that? Talk to them. So I do have a minimum that I need to pay, but some of those extra stuff, I just don't think we need. We don't like, I'm still paying for Google Ads and things, but we're not paying as much as we would if we were really trying to get work. At this point, we're just trying to keep the algorithm live and active so that when the season starts, we're going to hopefully the algorithm is already in our favor. Um, and we've been doing that for quite a while. We didn't just start in 25 with all these services. We started probably a little later than mid-season, but my numbers next year for marketing are probably going to be different, and I don't think it's going to be crazy. I don't think it's going to be too much more. 2.5% is like nothing. I was budgeting in the past 4%. So even if I do double, if I pay double in marketing, I bet you it's going to return a lot more than it has for me in the past. Maybe we'll see. Um, and it's going to be at what I'm already kind of budgeted, what I feel good budgeting anyway. So those are my thoughts on maintaining a healthy profit margin. Again, I kind of had to go through this myself. There were years where I always say I want to do 20 or more. All my prices are made so that we can do 20% profit margin. But I get sidetracked sometimes because I need this, I want to pay for that. So it all comes down to pricing and spending money. And obviously that's everybody knows that. But there's some things that you can control. You don't just have to pay labor just to pay labor. You can actually be strategic about it. My field guys have to hit their numbers, and they do. Once we did that, like initial drop of you've got to hit these numbers, I think we lost three field workers, and I've said this in a past video. When three people out of your team of let's say 15 aren't hitting their numbers, and they're not hitting them like I'm not saying they're off by like a little bit, they're off by a lot. You actually will have more people not hitting their numbers because you basically got to take money from this field crew, in terms of like I don't know what you call it. Like you're not really taking money because you don't need money, but to make everybody be in the green, you're basically saying, all right, well, this person, um, we're going to take money from this producer that actually hit green, who barely hit his green, but he hit it. Now he's not going to be in the red. And now you've got like, so at the end of the day, because three people didn't hit their numbers, you're probably going to have like six or seven people who, on paper, if like a real numbers guy looked at it, now you've got like six or seven people who aren't hitting their numbers because of these three, if you were to balance everything out. So it's really important to get those people that aren't hitting their numbers, train them, like talk to them, show them why they're not hitting their numbers, and then letting them go. But so all these, and then your labor, your fixed overhead, those bills that are automatic, you need to lower them. Like it's so important. And if you don't need something, take it off. I'm paying $300 for GPS, and I after doing some research, so I was paying a lot less in the past, but we were kind of upset with um, like the I wouldn't say consistency, but like the accuracy. The accuracy of my old GPS company that I was with wasn't 100%. I would say it was more like 80, 80% accurate. So we went with another company that was wired. So we got rid of the old company, went with a new company that was wired, and doubled our bill. Okay, but it was 100% accurate. Once I realized I want to start saving money, I don't want these big bills. Do we really need that Do we really need that GPS? Yes. Okay. So after much discussion, we realized we do need GPS. Okay, it's come in handy in our favor many times, maybe even once a day. Because we have the GPS, we can either show the workers why they're not hitting their numbers, or talk to customers and prove that we were at where we said we were, and all these things. So every day, there's probably one incident where we're like, "Hey, we noticed that you went here," or "Hey, customer, they were there at this time, so check your camera." And they go, "Oh, yeah, you're right." So GPS is important for us, but 100% accuracy is no longer important for us. We're good with 80% now that we know what 100% accuracy does and how much money we could be saving if we didn't have 100% accuracy. we'd be okay. So, but I'm in a contract, and they start dropping in February because I would start getting GPS devices as we would get trucks. So the contracts first ones end in February, and then they go on throughout whenever. So there'll probably still be a couple of devices that I'll still have to pay for, probably for another year, I'm guessing, because all these are on a 3-year contract. So it kind of sucks. And then that time frame, that cheaper GPS company that I used to pay for has gotten a lot better. So it's all going to work out. And they've actually lowered their price. The first company I was with lowered their price even more. So I'm pretty happy. Um, but these are things that you got to do to maintain those healthy profit margins. All right, guys, I'm going to start reading some of these questions really fast, and then we'll end it here. Um, Great info. I'm still managing on keeping the guys paid as much as possible in the winter, but only if they are making money for the business. Correct. That's the way it needs to be. I was at 13% profit margins. I need to add more to the route to because we need room in the days. But my goal is to bump it up to 20% this year. I think that's a great goal. In almost any size business. I mean, um, there are times where you're going to need to, you know, buy things, but I think it, for the most part, it should be able to get done. One thing I wanted to point out too that I've come to realize, and maybe this will help you feel a lot better for those of you that worry about this, but like the winter, the winter costs for some labor, for all labor, the winter is one of those things where I used to get like that gut punch feeling like, oh man, now we've got to spend some profit back into labor for the winter. Some of this hard earned profit has got to go back in. I've come to realize that that's just the way it's going to be for landscape business. I've talked to so many people. It's been on my mind every year since I basically started winter services. And even before that, because you got to pay your good people, right? You want them there the next year. And it's just the way it is. Um, I've also come to realize that you don't need all of your workers to be on winter pay. It is kind of understood in the industry that this industry, there is a winter break, you know? It's just the way it is. Um, but it's nice when a company can pay for their workers so that they feel better and feel good about their job. But if you don't need them, don't don't force it. Let them know, hey man, I apologize. I'll be here for you next season if you had to. Just you know what I mean. I'm not going to go into all that, but um, it is. I've just learned to live that winter pay. A lot of it comes out of profit. Um, Now, some of that winter pay was pre-sales for snow, and that's where we try and use as much as possible to go put that back into the snow. But for the most part, we did spend, well, we didn't completely spend, but we had $50,000 that was put away from the business, which accounts for probably 5%. I'm guessing. No, no, not even close. I don't know what it is. Small percentage, but it's a lot of money. 50,000 bucks that we took from I would say our profit. Um, and then the rest was pre-sales, right? Um, and that's hopefully would cover the winter payroll, but it's not going to. I mean, you never know, but I doubt it. So what you should do is plan for that. So unfortunately, you just got to plan for it. Um, so pre-sales, we kind of have a number in our head that we try to hit. We try to hit the 100,000 sales in pre-sales. We knew even if we got 100,000, that wasn't going to be enough. If if it didn't snow at all and we want to pay everything, pay the bills and pay our workers, that's not enough. We didn't quite hit that number, but we were really close. It was in the high 80s. and then we took 50,000 from the year and put it in there. So that's what we decided was going to be our winter fund. So if you count that, I mean, um, so when we put all our profit into buying the shop, it wasn't quite 20%. It was close. It was really close. Um, but we put some of that money back into the winter fund. So that, but we can make that back if we don't spend it all. So, there is something there too that you just kind of have to, if you want to pay your workers in like the strongest company first way, not like I did it back in 23 where it's like, no matter what, I'm going to pay you guys for 30 hours. Like, no, smart people you really need. We need all our plow drivers. We need our shovel guys. A lot of our shovel guys are paid through when it snows only, and that's the agreement. If they want to do snow, not all of them, some. All my plow drivers are on a kind of like an on-call salary, um, plus the work they do. But it's something that I feel the company can afford, and if not, we're gonna look back at this and go, you know what, that didn't work. We got to just do this. And those that want to do it, this is the agreement if you want to do it. But hopefully it's going to work because I definitely want my guys to make as much money as possible. Sorry, I'm going to keep going here. As a solo operator, I'm listening to these numbers. Holy cow. And that was from Jim. Jeff, how's it going? I'm going good, man. Thanks. I'm here in Ohio. I doubt you're still on. Maybe you are. I don't know. Uh, but it's cold. So when I landed at the Cleveland airport last night, it was midnight. I could not get an Uber. No Uber, man. I was sitting there waiting for like 30 minutes and I canceled, tried all the different levels of Uber. Nobody was coming out there. And so luckily there was like a taxi guy just kind of driving around in the parking lot. I was like, dude, can you take me to the hotel? And he's like, yeah, no problem. Where you at? And I was like, Streetsboro. And he's like, "Holy crap, really? Like, no wonder you're not getting an Uber driver out there, man. You need like an SUV to get there." And I'm like, "Are you serious?" So anyway, he brought me out here. The Uber ride was more than my hotel room for the night. That's pretty high, you know what I mean? But anyway, did what I had to do. I got here, and you know, I'm actually doing this video because this hotel is kind of in a bad spot with all the snow that's outside. There's nothing really close by. I went to Starbucks this morning and it was a trek, man. And it's not even far. It's probably it's probably 50 yards away. And it took a long time. Um, there's no sidewalk. It's busy roads. And so it was interesting. Um, so yeah, I'm just here. I think I'm here for a water feature training and we are going to, you know what, I shouldn't go into too much detail on this video. I just wanted to keep it for the topic because maybe I'll start doing these lives on just like a certain topic. So but I will read all the questions or comments. This year in Wisconsin was my best year. I did purchase a new trailer and some equipment. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, hold on. Jim, Jeff, is that question directed towards me? Oh, I don't know if you're talking to Jeff over there. Maybe you guys know each other. I don't know. Um, I thought, hey Jim, I think Jeff was talking to me because he says that a lot in my comments. Walter, my brother is the manager right now and he is in the field producing money. I'm focusing on sales and starting to dissect the numbers. Great. It's really important. And you know what's funny is like there's people like it's natural for them to dissect numbers right from the start. I've met them. And it's a little different. I'm not saying that that's like the best way, because my way, I love the way I did it. My way was just get sales and get jobs done. Um, I've always wanted to make sure that we were making enough money, but you know how it is. I'm not a numbers guy, so my numbers weren't perfect when I first started. My mowings were off. I've had to do price increases to get to where I'm at now because I didn't really understand how important numbers were at the early days. But at the same time, it allowed me to have a lot of customers. And again, I'm not saying that pricing low is good. I don't think in my mind, I never priced low. But reality is a different story, right? That's when you know, when you actually see it, and you put on those number goggles and you go, holy crap. Um, that's when you go, okay, I was wrong. And I don't think I was ever wrong because my goal, a lot of us have a lot of calls when we're first starting out, and we say, hey, we don't answer the phone, right? At first, right? Like the first 5 years or whatever, maybe even less for a lot of people, you're just too busy to answer the phone, so you just don't get it. Well, I made a commitment early on that I was going to answer the phone every call, and we were going to get the job done. Like that was my business model. And even though my numbers weren't perfect, I still scaled the company with good workers and getting like the best equipment. And again, I'm not saying that's good. I'm like polar opposite of what some other people do. Like, there's some people that know everything about numbers right from day one. And then there's people like me that just worry about getting the job done. But then over the years, I started kind of going this way backwards. And I'm really proud and happy that that's the way I ended up doing it because I have so much fun running my business. So much fun. I could do this. I could have been doing it for free. I wasn't. I've always paid myself. But I could have paid myself and could have bought a property a lot sooner had I known my numbers. But would my company be as well known as big as it is now? I don't know. I don't think so. I feel like the way I did it is the harder way of doing it. But at the same time, it's the easier way of doing it. It's just like you're just overworking kind of thing. Because sometimes I wonder, how come we're still in business? Like I look at a lot of these companies that I've noticed around my city and area, and they're not around, or they're still really small. And with us, you could see, trucks everywhere, and we bought a property, and like we're doing good. We've had 4 people from my company buy a house. I'm so proud of that. Like, so I'm not saying the way I did it is right. I'm not saying the way somebody who starts off and know their numbers is right. There just needs to be a balance of trying to get as much work as possible, getting it done, and following your numbers. And I don't know if that happens all at the same time. I think you kind of got to go one route or another. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. But at this point, um, I I th- knowing your numbers is really important. As long as you know them, and then you can make a decision on how you want to run your business. That's good. As long as you know what your numbers are, then you can go, you know what, I get it, but we want to try and fill up all these routes. I don't think you should go lower because at some point that's not sustainable. Customers are going to be overwhelm you with work, and you're not going to be able to handle it. It's going to look bad for you. So you're only hurting yourself. You're not hurting anybody else with lawn care stuff, underpricing it because you're only hurting yourself. Because anybody with a mower can do this, and trust me, they charge low, but they can never do more work than they can handle. When you're priced right, you can hire the right people, you can keep going, you can do a lot more work. So, let's see here. Invoicing takes a lot of time and chasing out customers that are late payers. Mainly, my business is cutting lawns. Right on, Jim. Another thing, I didn't point this out as one of my top lists of maintaining healthy profit margins, but charging uh charging putting everybody on a credit card and charging it after every service makes you stronger. And I know the argument is, well, yeah, but what about those merchant fees? I get it. There are months I pay $6,000, $7,000. a month on just credit card fees, but I always have everybody paid up. I mean, think about that. Whenever I need to buy something, I technically can do it. You know, there's almost when we're busy and we're rocking with 150 jobs on the board and we get all that money back the next day, there's nothing I can't buy to run my business. Literally. I have the strength to buy anything I need. I'm not saying that, we're so efficient. I still have a lot of work to do. I still have some debts that I want to pay off. My interest alone on credit cards is 2% a month. Um, and that's something we're going to tackle this year for sure. Um, so I'm not here to say, my way is awesome. I'm just saying, like, but I did have a 20% profit margin. Okay. So what you need to do is have money coming in so you can pay for things. I don't know. Does that have anything to do with healthy profit margin? I think it does because you can pay for things you need that are emergency when you can charge everybody every day. It's to me, it's a great thing. Happy New Year, broski. Same to you, man. Let's see. Walter. Yes, it was different because I love being in the field, but now I've fallen in love with selling work and looking at the P&L to see where we are at each month. That's right. And Jeff, you like being a solo operator. Well, that's good too. I mean, it's all like that's the beauty of having our businesses. We can run it the way we want. Um, so that's great.
So I think we're good. I think my headphone moved. So if the sound's off a little bit, that's what it is. But all right, guys, I appreciate you. I hope I answered this question. I definitely probably went off topic on a few things, but I tried to bring it back. So anyway, guys, take it easy. Talk to you on the next one.